My name is Claire. I'm 29 years old, a graphic designer living in San Diego, and apparently, I've committed the unthinkable crime of wanting a weekend to myself. My sister Amanda would tell you I'm selfish. She'd say I've changed, that I've become too independent for my own good. But here's the truth. I've spent the last decade twisting myself into knots for a family that only seems to notice me when they need something. And now that I've stopped, even just once, suddenly I'm the villain in everyone's story. It started with the family reunion. Every summer, my parents organize a big bonding weekend at some vacation spot. Think lakeside cabins, barbecues, card games that turn into arguments, and way too much passive-aggressive tension served with homemade lemonade. This year, Amanda offered to plan the entire thing. She booked a large Airbnb up in Big Bear Lake, 7 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and enough bunk beds to make a camp counselor cry. When she texted the group chat the reservation details, she wrote, "This house fits all of us. I figured Claire can take the room with the kids since she's coming solo." No question, no ask, just assignment. To be fair, I was used to that. Ever since Amanda had her 2 girls, Lila and Harper, I've been the designated backup mom, babysitting during dinner parties, picking them up when she's running late, staying in on Christmas Eve while everyone else drinks wine and sings carols. Because I'm single, childless, and, according to my mom, free as a bird. Everyone assumes I don't have a life of my own, but I do. I really, really do. So when I saw Amanda's message, something in me snapped. I stared at the screen for a long moment. I had just come off a 72-hour deadline crunch at work. I hadn't taken a real break in months. And now, the one weekend I was supposed to breathe, I was being told I'd be sharing a room with 2 hyper, sticky-fingered 7-year-olds, while my sister and her husband got the master suite. Again. So, I did something I've never done before. I booked my own room. It was a quiet little inn just 10 minutes from the Airbnb. Quaint, clean, and, most importantly, peaceful. 1 queen bed, my own bathroom, and a balcony overlooking the forest. When I confirmed the reservation, I felt an actual weight lift off my shoulders. I didn't say anything in the group chat right away. I figured I'd tell Amanda closer to the weekend. I knew she might be a little annoyed, but I never expected what came next. I told her on a Thursday evening. The reunion was scheduled for Friday through Sunday. We were both at Mom and Dad's house, helping to organize the coolers and groceries. "Hey," I said casually. "I went ahead and got a room at that lodge down the road. It just made more sense. Figured I'd get better sleep and, give the kids some space." Amanda froze, a bottle of orange juice in her hand. Her smile didn't even twitch, but her voice was ice. "You what?" "I booked my own room," I repeated, slower this time, thinking maybe she hadn't heard me right. "Just for the weekend. It's really close. I'll still be there for everything." She blinked at me, hard. Then she laughed, but not the kind. That meant something was funny. "Wow," she said, turning away. "So that's what we're doing now." I didn't know what to say. I just thought, "No, it's fine. You've made it pretty clear." She slammed the cooler shut and walked past me. "You don't want to be part of the family. Message received." "Amanda, come on." "No," she snapped, spinning back to face me. "Don't Amanda me. You always act like you're so put upon, like being around us is some huge burden." "Well, guess what, Claire? Families show up. Families sacrifice. But you just want to be a guest star in your own life." I opened my mouth to respond, but she was already storming out of the room. I stood there in stunned silence, holding a bag of baby carrots I'd forgotten I was unpacking. And just like that, it had begun. By Friday morning, the group chat was on fire. Mom messaged, "Claire, honey, we already paid for the Airbnb. Why waste money on a separate room?" Dad chimed in, "Let's not cause drama. Can't you just take the room Amanda planned? Even my younger cousin Ryan, who normally never gets involved, texted me privately. You okay? Amanda's telling everyone you're ditching the family. And then came the text that made my stomach drop. From Amanda. You've always been good at leaving when it's inconvenient. Honestly, you're a traitor. A traitor. Like I'd betrayed the crown. Like I was some double agent working for the Anti-Family Federation. All because I didn't want to sleep in the same room as two kids who once tried to use my laptop as a pancake griddle. By the time I arrived in Big Bear, the atmosphere was tense enough to cut with a butter knife. Everyone smiled with tight lips. Amanda barely looked at me. Her husband, Mark, gave me a confused hug and whispered, "What the hell happened?" I just smiled and shook my head. I spent the first night in my room at the inn, wrapped in a comforter, sipping tea, and feeling equal parts guilty and relieved. Was I being selfish? Or was I finally setting a boundary? But the real twist came the next morning, when Mark showed up at the lodge, unannounced. He knocked on my door around 8 a.m., wearing joggers and a jacket, face flushed from the cold mountain air. "Hey," he said, almost sheepishly. "Can I talk to you for a sec?" I blinked. Sure. Everything okay?" He looked down, then back at me. "Amanda told me what she said to you. About the room. About being a traitor." I nodded slowly. "She left out the part where she booked the master suite for us and stuck you with the kids without asking," he added, shaking his head. "Look, I didn't know. And if I had, I would have said something. I didn't know what to say. I felt my throat tighten a little. She's been under a lot of stress lately," he continued. "But that doesn't excuse how she talked to you. And honestly, I'm starting to think she's projecting something she doesn't want to admit." I stared at him. "What do you mean?" I asked. He hesitated, then sighed. "Let's just say the sleeping arrangements aren't the only thing she's been dishonest about lately." I stood there in the doorway, still half asleep, as Mark looked at me like he was trying to figure out whether to keep talking or pretend he hadn't said anything at all. I could hear the distant hum of cars passing the lodge, birds chirping, and the pine trees and the sharp, irregular rhythm of my own heartbeat in my ears. "What do you mean? She's been dishonest?" I asked slowly, carefully. Mark ran a hand through his hair and took a breath, like he instantly regretted coming here. "I shouldn't have said that," he muttered, but it was too late. "You did," I replied, folding my arms. "And now you kind of have to explain." He looked down at his sneakers, then back up at me. "I just meant Amanda's been off lately. She's been short with me, she's been secretive with her phone, and she snaps at the girls, more than usual. I figured she was just overwhelmed. But last week, I found something. I didn't say anything, waiting. She left her email open on the computer," he went on, his voice low. "There were a bunch of messages. A guy named Drew. Work friend, apparently. But it wasn't work stuff. I didn't go digging, didn't need to. It was all right there. I felt like I had swallowed a block of ice. She's cheating on you?" I whispered. Mark looked away. "I don't know for sure. Don't want to think so. But the way she talks to him, it's not just friendly. There were photos. Nothing explicit, but still intimate." "Oh my God," I said under my breath. "Amanda? My sister? Miss Family First?" She made me feel like the world's worst person for booking a quiet room 10 minutes away, and yet she might be blowing up her entire marriage behind the scenes. Mark shook his head. "Look, I didn't come here to dump this on you. I just thought, maybe you should know there's more going on. You didn't do anything wrong, Claire. Booking your own room doesn't make you selfish. It just makes you sane." I gave a bitter laugh. "Try telling that to the rest of the family." I might, he said. I raised my eyebrows. You'd actually say something? He shrugged. Not yet. I'm still figuring it out. But if Amanda's going to start turning people against you for doing something completely reasonable, I'm not going to sit back and let her rewrite the narrative. I felt a swell of something. Relief, maybe? Gratitude? But also sadness. Mark wasn't just my sister's husband. For the past decade, he'd been the one person in the family who seemed to genuinely listen to me. And now this? I wasn't sure who I felt worse for, him or the girls. I appreciate you coming, I said finally. He nodded. I'm sorry she put you in this position. I've been in this position for years, I replied. I just finally stood up. Mark gave me a long look. Good. It's about time. Then he turned and walked down the hallway, his footsteps echoing off the wooden floors. I stood there a moment longer, letting the cold morning air wrap around me, before closing the door and sinking onto the edge of the bed. This wasn't just about a room anymore. Something bigger had cracked open, something messier and more painful than I ever anticipated. And the worst part? I had to sit across from Amanda at breakfast like nothing had changed. I arrived at the Airbnb around 9:30. The kitchen was already alive with movement, Dad flipping pancakes in his signature pajamas and sandals combo, Mom clattering plates on the counter, the girls chasing each other in socks across the hardwood floor. Amanda was at the island, sipping coffee, dressed like she was about to step into a catalog photo shoot. Perfect hair, perfect jeans, not a hint of stress. When she saw me, her expression didn't change. "Morning," I said, pretending nothing was out of place. She didn't respond. Lila ran up and grabbed my hand. "Aunt Claire, can we go to the lake later?" Mommy said maybe. I forced a smile. "Of course, sweetheart." Mark walked in a moment later, and when his eyes met mine, I saw it. The flicker of tension, the weight of secrets. But he didn't say anything either. Just nodded and kissed Amanda's cheek like nothing had happened. The whole breakfast felt like a play. Everyone reading from a script, pretending not to notice the cracks in the stage beneath us. Amanda made sure to bring up my room in front of everyone, casually and coldly. Claire decided she needed a little me time this weekend, she said with air quotes, laughing like it was some kind of joke. Mom gave me that disapproving look she'd perfected years ago. "It just doesn't make sense, honey. We're all here together." "It makes sense to me," I replied calmly. "And I'm still here, aren't I?" Amanda didn't drop it. "It's just weird. I mean, who separates themselves from the family during a family weekend, especially when kids were so excited to bunk with their favorite aunt?" There it was, the guilt card. "I'm not a free nanny, Amanda," I said, my tone sharper than I intended. "I came here to see everyone, not to be scheduled into a role. You picked for me." Her eyes narrowed. "Wow, that's real rich coming from someone who bails the second she's slightly inconvenienced." And just like that, the room went silent. Dad cleared his throat. "Maybe we should—" "No," I said, holding Amanda's gaze. "Let her talk. Apparently I'm the traitor, remember?" Her face twitched. "I said that in a moment of frustration." "No. You said that because you meant it," I said. "But here's the thing. You don't get to weaponize guilt every time someone doesn't bend to your expectations. I've bent for years. And for what?" I could see Mom wanting to intervene, but for once she didn't. Maybe because she could see that I wasn't going to back down this time. Amanda opened her mouth to speak again, but Mark cut in. "She didn't do anything wrong," he said quietly. Amanda turned to him. "Excuse me?" He stood slowly, placing his coffee mug on the counter. "Claire didn't betray anyone. She made a choice, for her own mental health, and I think that's something we should respect, not shame." Amanda's eyes widened, her mouth slightly parted. "Are you seriously taking her side right now? Not taking sides, he said. I'm just saying the truth. The room was so quiet you could hear Lila whispering something to Harper in the hallway. And Amanda? She just stood there, frozen. For the first time, I saw something crack in her, too. A flicker of something, fear, shame, or maybe just the realization that she wasn't going to win this round the way she always had. Whatever it was, I knew in that moment. This weekend was going to change everything, and not just for me. The silence after Mark spoke felt like it stretched across the whole house. No one moved. No one breathed. Amanda looked at him like he'd just spoken in a language she couldn't understand. You're defending her, she said, her voice shaking slightly, but her posture still stiff, still trying to hold on to control. I'm not defending anyone, Mark said again, more firmly this time. I'm telling you what I see. Claire is not the problem here. Amanda blinked, her jaw clenching. So I am the problem? No, he said, but he didn't sound sure anymore. I just think maybe it's time you looked at why you're so angry about something so small. Something shifted in Amanda, then. It was like all the cracks she'd carefully patched over with passive-aggressive smiles and pointed comments suddenly gave way. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just turned around and walked straight out of the kitchen, her mug still half full on the counter. Dad stood up a little too quickly. I think I'll go check the grill. Mom sighed heavily, rubbed her temples, and started gathering plates. No one else said anything. I could feel every pair of eyes in the room pretending to look away while secretly watching me and Mark. He looked at me again, tired, sad, but calm, and gave a small nod before following Amanda out. The rest of the morning passed in a strange haze. I played with the girls, helped Mom set up for lunch, and did my best to act like I wasn't reliving every second of that conversation in my head. But the truth was, I was shaken. Not because of the confrontation, God knows I'd waited long enough for that, but because of what it had revealed. Amanda wasn't just controlling. She was unraveling. And now that Mark had stood up to her, even gently, I wasn't sure how. Things were going to go back to normal. Maybe they weren't supposed to. That night, I returned to the lodge early. The girls were asleep, the wine had been poured, and Amanda still hadn't said a word to me since the kitchen incident. I didn't push it. I didn't need to. I think she knew she'd lost control of the narrative. Around 11 p.m., I was brushing my teeth when I heard a knock at my door. I opened it to find Amanda standing there, hoodie zipped halfway, her hair tied back, no makeup, eyes puffy. I need to talk to you, she said softly. I stepped aside without a word. She walked in and sat down on the edge of the bed, like she'd done it 100 times before, like we were teenagers again, and she needed to vent about a boy or a bad grade. I didn't mean to call you a traitor, she started. I sat across from her. But you did. She nodded slowly. Yeah, I did. There was a long pause. I've been so angry lately, she said. All the time. At Mark, at the girls, at you. And it's not fair. You're right. You've bent over backwards for this family. I expected you to always say yes. I didn't say anything. I wanted her to keep talking. I didn't cheat, she said suddenly. In case you were wondering. I raised an eyebrow. Mark told me about the emails. She looked down. It wasn't what it looked like. Or maybe it was. I don't know. I liked the attention. It made me feel like I still existed outside of diapers and carpools and grocery lists. But nothing physical ever happened. Does Mark believe that? I don't know, she whispered. He hasn't said much, but I know I hurt him. And now I've hurt you too. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Amanda, I'm not angry that you needed help. I'm angry that it was never a request. It was a demand. Like my time didn't belong to me. She nodded slowly. I think I was scared of what would happen if you stopped showing up. You're the only person who ever really shows up for me. That stopped me. Because despite everything, despite the guilt trips and the manipulation, I understood what she meant. We were raised to believe family meant sacrifice, that love looked like exhaustion. And I had played that role perfectly, quietly burning out while she kept pretending everything was fine. But now, everything was cracked wide open. And maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. Amanda stood after a moment and moved toward the door. She paused with her hand on the knob. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. But thank you for finally saying no. I think I needed it more than you did. She left without waiting for a response. I stood there for a long time after she was gone, staring at the closed door. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the side character. In my own story, I felt like the author, and this time I was writing my own ending.